How are you? Welcome to part 2 of Growing a Personal Brand. Yesterday I shared the first episode and gave you lots of behind the scenes of what had been going on for me and how I've grown my personal brand. But my aim with this series all week is to give you some journal prompts. I know lots of us are feeling that heaviness at the moment of all of the things that are going on in the world. And when there's heaviness, it can be really difficult to find that ease and flow and perhaps that creativity. Maybe we are feeling that stuckness. And so today's episode is a real opportunity to dive deeper into how do I turn this around? How do I make this work for me? And how can I find a way ultimately? So if you haven't listened to part 1, do go back and listen, but these work as individual episodes as well. The first thing that I want to know and I want to share with you is that I wish I'd known that there was likely not to be one lucky break. And I think this maybe comes from fairy tales or growing up, waiting for your one prince to come and arrive on a white horse and to save you, or the one job opportunity that changed everything. And certainly when I look back in my life, there has definitely been moments where I've felt a significant change, or it's been a sliding doors moment where my life has taken on a different path. But I want to say that maybe there isn't, or maybe offer this as an alternative. Maybe there isn't just one lucky break. Maybe it's a series of stepping stones. Maybe it's a series of yeses and nos, and I'll have a go and I'll do that and I'll see what happens over here. Maybe that's what it is, rather than the pressure of one thing. And I tell you why this is useful, and I want you to play around with this in your body and what it does. When we say, is this the one? Or is this the thing? Or this is the meeting that I've got to nail, otherwise, my life is never going to be the same. What changes within us is a slight desperation. We bring that vibe of like, I really need this to happen. And I really want to get this right. And what happens when you bring that, it means that the other person might start to move away. And so a really sort of a powerful shift that you can make within this is just be in that headspace of moving forward. Just be in that headspace of enjoying playing the game, opening a new door, seeing what's around the corner, exploring a new path. For me, that is a much steadier frame of mind to be in, because it allows me to be in that playful, curious, let's see what happens kind of vibe, rather than that desperate, grabby, really need this to happen situation. And so it's allowed me also to not be attached, and that has been golden for me. Likewise, when I meet clients and I have these declare and share sessions where I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to work together? Or if I go and pitch for something, or I go and audition for something, like I've got an audition tomorrow, I will be approaching those with I will show up, I will serve, I will do what I need to do in that moment, but I will be detached from the outcome. Meaning, I will still be all right afterwards. Oh, yeah. It's one of those emotional things. Even if it doesn't go all right, you'll still go your way or how you want it to be. You'll still be all right afterwards. And I think so often we can, if we're not careful, put our self-worth, who we are as a person, our value in the world on like this one thing. And we are so much more than that. And I think that's really good to remember. The next thing I want to say is to work out how you want to play your straddle, your seesaw moment. And this seesaw moment is between your past / present and your future. And this is an interesting balance, and it's one that shifts a lot for me. So I really want to be in the present moment. That's really important to me, because the older that I get, the quicker time goes, I find. And I sent a picture of Oscar to one of my best pals last night, and she was like, why is he like 12? And I thought, yeah, he does look really grown up in that. Like, where have those years gone? Even though, like, at times the days, it's that phrase, isn't it? The days are long and the years are short. And I really want to catch myself in that present moment and just be sometimes. And some of the most favorite days that the kids request and that they want, or my kids request, is slow days. Slow days for us, which are days at home, days where we cook, we watch telly on the sofa together, we do puzzles on the floor, we play in the garden, we water the plants, we hang out, basically. Really slow, chill days where we don't have to go anywhere. And they love, love, love those days. And it's interesting when you're growing a personal brand, because the phrase that people might say to you is, what's next? What are you working on? Where are you going next? Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And actually, it's a great idea to know where you're going, of course, or know where you hope to go, but also be in that present moment as well, of like, what's happening now? Stopping and smelling the roses, that phrase. And one thing that I do, sorry, now the bin lorries are coming down our road, and it's it should be a one-way street. It isn't, it's a two-way street. And so usually it's quite a chaotic moment. Okay, is this going to be too noisy? Maybe it is. Okay, I'll keep going. So it's finding that balance between being in the present moment. And so that could be practically you looking at all the things that you did today, all the little moves that you make, the fact that you sent that email, the fact that you showed up for your exercise class even though you were tired, or that you read a book that you know will have things in that will serve you again and again. But also make sure that you've got time to stop and be in that moment of where next, where am I actually going? Because if you don't straddle the two, you'll end up just doing busy work, or you'll just end up filling your days, or you'll just end up having your bum on your seat between 9 and 5 because that's what you feel that you should do. So make sure that you have time where you are in those expansive moments, those expansive spaces. So for me, that might be going to yoga where I feel my body physically making more space. That really helps me. Sometimes it's going for a walk and noticing things, or a run. Like, movement really helps me to do that. Sometimes it's going to see a piece of creative work. So going to the theatre, going to an art gallery, going to a museum, going, wow, people did that. I also had a moment in the library the other day where I was feeling really stuck for ideas, and I just felt like I kept going back into first gear, like I can't say what I need to say. And suddenly I looked up and I saw all of these books that people had written, all of these stories, all of these perspectives, all of these points of views, all of these lives lived. And I suddenly thought, come on, like, you've got something to say as well, and look at what is around you. And it really helped me ground in that moment. It was really, really helpful. The next thing that I want to say is a new chapter is often going to require a new version of you. And this is a really tricky thing, because sometimes people just want us to stay the same. And sometimes people will have an idea of who they think that you are. And maybe they have an idea of who you were at school, or who you were as a little child, or who you were or who you are in your family setup. And when you start to make moves that move outside of that, it ruffles some people's feathers, and it's really difficult to navigate within that. So I remember when I started my coaching qualification 10, 11 years ago. And coaching, self-development, looking at yourself, being self-reflective was not really in the culture. It wasn't like it is now on Instagram. And there were a few people in my life that honestly thought I'd lost my mind. Like, what is this? What are you trying to do? Stop trying to psychoanalyze me. And I literally wasn't doing anything because I have boundaries within my work and my business. But it was really interesting because people felt that I was moving outside of who I was, or who perhaps people thought that I was. And this is a really interesting moment to observe when you know that you are ready to go to the next level. And I found it really difficult every time that I've made those moves, that I wasn't going to make everybody happy, that I was probably going to let some people down, or I was going to disappoint people, or I wasn't going to be seen as, how do I describe it? Sometimes it's felt lonely, like doing the next thing, because I felt like people haven't necessarily understood. But what I have done is I've tried to, and this kind of only counts, with a small number of people, I've tried to explain why I am doing what I am doing. And so this could be for you. Maybe you're thinking like, I need to go to this next level. And yet I'm finding that it's a bit clunky at the moment. I'm finding like I'm taking one step forward and two steps back because I'm getting used to this new thing. And certainly when I did my coaching qualification, like all of those years ago, when I came home and spoke to Matt about it, not that I was necessarily asking his permission, but we were in a conversation about it. And I was saying, I really want to do this thing. And he was asking me questions about it, of course. And that's what we are to each other. And maybe you have that with a partner or a parent or a friend or whatever, those checks and balances. And I'm always looking for him to ask me questions that maybe I haven't thought about or considered. And likewise, I try and do the same for him. And I knew there was something in that coaching at that time of, if I can do something that I can be skilled in, that I can be qualified in, it's going to open up so many opportunities later down the line. So I was 30 when I did that. And in my head, I was hoping that children would be part of my 30 to 40 decade. And I was thinking this could be something that I could do alongside everything else. And speaking in that, creating your own vision together was really, really helpful, because suddenly it didn't become a scary thing. It didn't become some secret thing that I was going away and doing. And I think sometimes just sitting down and saying let's go to the pub. Let's go and have a glass of wine, a beer, whatever, a cocktail. Let's go out for dinner. And let's talk about this. Let's talk about where we want to go. And once people feel that they understand what's going on for you, it's going to be so much easier for them to be in support of you, because it doesn't feel scary. It doesn't feel secretive and any of those things. Another person that I want to mention today, so this is point number 4, is Jillian Anderson. So I met Jillian Anderson when I was at drama school, and I believe she came to talk to us when I was in my second year. So I was about 19, 20 at the time. And I remember her coming, and she had finished, I believe, the X-Files at this time, but she was huge. She was huge in the 90s, and she felt like a really big, and maybe she probably was, a big American star. And she came in, and her car, somebody had driven her, she turned up, and she walked in. And she was so effortless and kind and funny, and endearing and engaging and present. It was the first time that and I will always remember that moment, and I hope that I meet her again one day in the future. And I remember she shifted how you could do business for me, because actors I'd seen in the past had been very eccentric, very like not in the room, very all over the shop, very full of like self-importance, a big booming voice. And she came in and she literally just sat on a sofa and chatted to us. And this has been a really great anchor for me throughout growing a personal brand. And I invite you to do the same, of who is doing business in a way that you would like to do business too. What would resonate with you? And look for those people out there. I think it's such a time where we have to reevaluate how we're showing up, how we're doing things. And the one way that's maybe had been presented to us, it doesn't work for many of us. It doesn't feel good. And I always come back to that sense that if something feels good for me, I'm more than likely to do good within that moment, because I'll be in that space where it's flowing and it's feeling good. And so this is your reminder today, is not only to remember who you really love following, watching, and just start to take little snapshots and pull them together. Maybe it's a Pinterest board. Maybe it's, I don't know, saved in your Instagram, or a list of names, or whatever it might be. But that those inspirations will really help you show up. Also, this might help you in terms of if you have to have photographs for your business. Maybe there will be a way where you can just show up and you can just be in that moment. I remember I had some headshots taken when I was a coach, and entrepreneur was really used. And I had some pictures where I had my arms folded and I looked really serious. And I just thought, oh my God, I don't fold my arms in normal life. I would never fold my arms when I had a conversation with somebody, because I want to be open. Like, I'm very aware of my body language. So why would I have these stern pictures with my arms folded? I think it's really good to keep looking and watching and thinking about what little bits you can borrow from people. One final thing that I want to share today, and of course I'll be back over the next few days with the other parts. How can you work on your steadiness? And steadiness can seem boring sometimes. And I was actually describing my mum to a friend the other day, and she was saying, I don't really know your mum, like tell me more about her. And one of the words that I used for her was steady. And I immediately stopped myself and thought, oh, she might not want me to call her steady, because steady might sound a bit boring, a bit beige, and she wouldn't want to be seen like that because she's much more sparky than steady. But it made me think about what this word of steadiness meant to me. And it was actually my mum that talks about this sense of a wavy line. So if you imagine a wavy line, and some people in their life, for lots of many different reasons, some they can control, some they absolutely can't, are like this, up and down. And she told me as a child of thinking about where you can be in that middle, where you can be, where you can feel centered, grounded, have that sense of steadiness, have that sense of feeling grounded, feeling in the moment, feeling ready. And this is, it can sometimes feel very out of reach for many of us, this steadiness, especially if there's other things going on. So instead of feeling like it's out there and it's somewhere where you have to get to, I often think about steadiness in terms of how can I come back? How can I come back to myself in this moment? How can I come back to steadiness? And sometimes it feels like a little crawl that is coming back. So it could be those moments of, I need an early night tonight. I need to drink some more water. I need to take some things off my plate. I need to tell somebody how I'm feeling. I need to rearrange something in my diary because it's now not going to work because there's other things going on. And this is a real moment for all of us to consider how we can keep coming back to steadiness. And it will be easier sometimes it will be harder. But that sense of coming back to steadiness, it really brings that recalibration to yourself. And sometimes it's not like the ultimate destination of steadiness. Like sometimes I will go for a meeting or a client session or a pitch or whatever it might be, and lots of stuff is going on in the background in my personal life. And so I'm looking at what are those actionable things that I can do that bring me to a point of steadiness. Not perfection, but just feeling steady. I would love you to think about that for yourself today. And consider your steadiness. Because if you can do that, and sometimes it could be the first hour of your day, even when you might have a day where you're like, actually, Nikki, I don't have loads of time to be working on my steadiness. If you can, it will allow you to be more proactive, more productive, more focused, more creative in the other time that you have, because you're starting from that even place, that expansive space where you can go, right, I can think clearly, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing. As always, if you want to know more, do go to my Work With Me page, nikkiraby.com/work with me. I am doing in-person sessions again. How brilliant. I love doing it. The sessions are in central London, North London. I've been going to a couple of people's houses, which I really like as well. I would love to know more. So do book a free session. I call them declare and share sessions because I want you to declare what you want. I want to know more. I want you to share it with me and let me know what your big ideas are. Where are you going next? What's your next chapter looking and feeling like? Because you know that it's your time. You know that this year is marching on and time is marching on, and it's time to make some moves. All right, I'm sending lots of love. If you haven't visited my freebies house, also do that. It's full of lots of different rooms that you can explore, and I'd love to know how you get on. That is under nikkiraby.com/freebies. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.